Hello everyone, I'm back again very soon because in the last 24 hours some very hard updates and wild information has come out in the disappearance now turned murder of Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley. Not only did authorities finally do a press conference, but an affidavit was released to the public that revealed so much information, it's shocking. And I also have to sadly announce that as of yesterday, the OSBI announced that 2 bodies were recovered in the disappearance of these 2 women. Announcing on their Facebook by saying, and I quote, "On April 14th, the OSBI, FBI, Texas County Sheriff's Department, and the Office of the Oklahoma Chief Medical Examiner recovered 2 deceased persons in rural Texas County. Both individuals will be transported to the medical examiner's office to determine identification, as well as cause and manner of death. This is still an ongoing investigation." End quote. Now, authorities have not confirmed whether these bodies were 100% in fact Veronica and Jilian. However, considering the circumstances and considering what we will learn from the affidavit, I think it's pretty easy to infer that these most likely are. As of this morning, which is April 15th, a press conference was finally held to update the public. I'm gonna be honest, it was essentially just a bunch of word salad of information that we already pretty much know, which is interesting to me considering the affidavit was then released, which told us everything that they could have just said anyway. So I don't understand why they didn't just say all this stuff in the press conference, but hey. They did, however, reveal that the 2 bodies were found in a very rural part of Texas County, which honestly all of Texas County is pretty much rural, so that doesn't really give us an exact location. They also said in this press conference that a lot of tips were submitted by locals to help them solve the crime, and I'll have the press conference sample if you want to watch it, but honestly, as I said, they didn't really say much. So let's get into the juicy stuff. All of the information that we are now getting as confirmation is from this unsealed arrest affidavit. It's confirmed in these documents that Veronica usually had a different person supervising these visitations. However, she told the woman to take 2 weeks off, which is why Jilian then came in to assist with the visitation instead. Which means, as we thought, Jilian is 100% a victim of circumstance in this situation. She normally wasn't there, and it just happened that she went to that one specific pickup where all of this went down. And to think that she was just trying to do essentially like a good deed, trying to help Veronica out, and then the next thing you know, she's being murdered for something she's not technically even a part of. Grandma didn't have any legitimate beef with Jilian, which we will later learn apparently they just didn't care. And Veronica shouldn't have been killed over this either. But the entire situation as a whole is just not only heartbreaking, but it's so scary. On top of that, imagine being the woman that would normally go on these pickups to now be sitting there thinking that it could have been her that was murdered. That has to be terrifying. Just overall, this entire situation is just so tragic. The documents also confirm that it was Veronica's family members named Melissa and Joey Padilla that located the vehicle just off of the intersection of Highway 95 and Road L. And once they ended up finding the vehicle, and we're going to talk about everything that was found in the vehicle and around the vehicle, so that must have been traumatizing for the family to find this. They ended up calling authorities though at 12:09 p.m. to report what they had found. The affidavit goes on to reveal that the evidence of foul play found was in fact blood on the roadway and edge of the roadway that indicated a severe injury. Veronica's glasses were found laying on the ground near a broken hammer, and Jilian's purse was found with a pistol magazine inside, although no weapon was located at the scene, which most likely seems to be meaning that Jilian was carrying a weapon for protection. And it makes me wonder, was that weapon then used against her? And the hammer makes me ask a lot of questions. It makes me ask whether the women were driving and the hammer was maybe thrown at the vehicle to cause them to stop, and which is why the window was broken, which I don't actually remember seeing in the affidavit stated that the windows were broken. However, that has just been going around a lot, but these broken windows. And if that is true, with the hammer, it also makes me question if the women were stationary, they had parked, and they were approached by people and they were scared, if maybe the hammer was used to break the windows so that they could gain access into the vehicle, or if maybe the hammer was used to attack the women physically. And I mean, all of that could probably result in the hammer being broken. But at this point, these are all questions that are unanswered, and they will hopefully be answered once the autopsies are done. Veronica and Jilian's phone records were said to indicate that both their devices were actively sending signals around 9:42 a.m., after which the devices were no longer seen by the networks and stopped transmitting. It's also said that Tiffany, the grandmother, was last said to be in communication with Veronica, and the last conversation they had was about how they were going to meet up at 10 a.m. for that custody exchange. However, when Grandma Tiffany was interviewed by authorities, she ended up telling them that the night before Jilian and Veronica disappeared, she had taken the children to spend the night at a family friend's named Barrett and Lacey Cook. And her plan was that morning when the women disappeared to go pick the children up to take them to the visitation custody exchange. However, claims that Veronica contacted her that morning saying that something had come up and that she wasn't going to make it for the pickup. Now, Veronica's phone did confirm that that call did happen. However, This phone call happened while Veronica was at Jilian's house picking her up so that the two could drive to Eva, Oklahoma to pick up the kids, meaning that grandma must be lying, because why would she be in the process of still picking Jilian up and driving there if she wasn't going to be going there anymore? It didn't make sense. So apparently, according to Grandma Tiffany, she claimed that when Jilian and Veronica went missing, she was sitting at home because she basically claimed Veronica had called off the visitation, which I think we can all gather that that's a load of bullshit. Because here's something very, very interesting that police would end up finding out. Grandma Tiffany wasn't that smart, apparently. Because according to the affidavit, Grandma Tiffany's cell phone records showed she searched for gun shops, tasers, and how to lure someone out of their house. So she was just on Google, just typing away how to essentially kidnap or murder someone. Insane. Which is probably like the number one thing you don't do if you're trying to commit a crime. You know, go on Google, because that shit tracks everything. And the police can easily search it up. Not that I'm telling anyone how to, get away with crime, but it's just funny to me that these people who commit crimes think they're so smart, and then they just go and Google literally the crime. It's crazy. Now, this whole time I've been wondering, who the hell are the Twombleys and how are they involved? Well, as I said in the previous update when we talked about the arrests, it seems like the Twombleys were friends of Tiffany and her boyfriend Tad's. And that seems to be true. And it also would turn out that it was Cora Twombly's 16-year-old daughter that was the one that told police that she believed her mother and her mother's husband Cole were involved. And trying to get this information is where I think police began to realize how dangerous these people may be. Because it stated that while police were interviewing Cora's teenage daughter and her brother in Carrick, Texas, Cora and Cole arrived trying to get access to the kids. It stated that Cora was aggressive and very upset that she was not allowed access to her children, and Cole was said to step out of the vehicle armed with a handgun in the holster of his belt. And I think you'll understand why Cora didn't want her kids talking, because her daughter seems to have exposed everything. She would go on to tell police that she had overheard group conversations relating to Veronica and how about Veronica hadn't protected the children from her brother, because the family had made claims that Veronica's brother had essayed the children and that Veronica hadn't done anything to stop that. She then told the police that her mother ended up telling her that Tiffany, Tad, her mother, and Cole, along with a man named Paul Grice, were involved in Veronica and Jilian's deaths. Cora's daughter also would go on to tell police that Tiffany had provided the group with burner phones and told police that she witnessed said burner phones charging on her mother's nightstand. She then told police that the entire group of them were involved in an anti-government religious group called God's Misfits, who not only regularly met up at the Twombly's home, but also met up at Barrett and Lacey Cook's house, the couple that were babysitting the children on the night and morning that Veronica and Jilian went missing. Interesting to see how all of this is just intertwined and connected. And I quote, "The daughter was told on March 29th, 2024 that Cora and Cole would not be home in the morning and were going to be on a mission." End quote. The daughter said that on the morning Veronica and Jilian went missing, she woke up around 10 a.m. and her mother and Cole were not home. Cora and Cole Twombly were thought to have left in a blue-gray Chevy pickup that day that was owned by a family member named Clint Twombly, and then they returned home around 12 p.m. in that same vehicle. It's claimed that Cora then told her daughter to clean the vehicle, saying, and I quote, "When the daughter asked what happened, she was told that things did not go as planned, but they would not have to worry about her, Veronica, again." The daughter asked about Jilian and why she had to die, and was told that Cora said she wasn't innocent either, as she had supported Veronica. The daughter asked Cora if the bodies were put in the well, and Cora replied, "Something like that." End quote. And this affidavit gets even scarier because it essentially goes on to allege what happened to Veronica and Jilian, or at least partly does. It's alleged that when Veronica and Jilian were approaching the pickup location in their vehicle, the Twombleys blocked the road, which then diverted Veronica and Jilian's vehicle to where Tiffany, Tad, and Paul Grice were. However, it seems like things didn't go as planned, whatever that means, whatever their original plan was. That information hopefully will come out in the future, but either way, sometime after this, when their vehicle ended up approaching the group, they ended up being murdered. On top of that, this wasn't the first time that Tiffany had tried to kill Veronica, which is astonishing. Cora's daughter alleged that Tiffany had attempted to murder Veronica back in February. However, Veronica didn't leave her home, so the plan was essentially ruined. The original plan had allegedly been to throw an anvil through Veronica's windshield while driving to make it look like an accident because anvils regularly fall off of work vehicles, which, in my opinion, connects back to Tiffany searching about how to lure someone away from their home. All of this is connected. All of this is just It's all intertwined. And I keep bringing up about the possibility of them tossing something in the car to make them crash or pull over. And that actually seemed to have been the original plan. However, Veronica wasn't lured out there in February, so it didn't work. And I am so glad that that didn't happen, because there's a possibility if they had tried to do that, police might have thought it was an accident and none of this would have been exposed. Of course, either way, I wish none of this happened, but at least this isn't all just being written off as a big accident. It's so terrifying to hear this. And the evidence runs deeper, because police didn't just find, Grandma Tiffany Googling how to murder someone or lure someone from their home. On February 13th, it's alleged that Grandma Tiffany bought 3 prepaid cell phones from a Walmart in Guyman, Oklahoma. On March 24th, she then bought 5 stun guns in Guyman, Oklahoma. All 3 of these phones are the phones that would ping where Veronica and Jilian's abandoned vehicle was found. The phones would then turn off and then ping again near a property that was 8.5 miles away, owned by a man named Jamie Beasley. The document states that the phones pinged around 10:16 a.m. to 10:35 a.m. on the property near a dam in the pasture where fresh dirt work was located. Concrete was located from Jamie Beasley's property to about 150 to 200 yards below the dam, where it was then discovered that a hole had been dug and filled back in and then covered with hay, which is most likely the burial spot, in my opinion. So just take a moment to take all of that in. Tifany Adams truly is an awful human being. She just seems to be pure evil. Just hearing all of this, it really drives home why no one wanted to speak up in this case. If they were willing to do stuff like this, they plotted to kill her twice. It was all pre-planned months in advance. No wonder no one wanted to speak. This all just proves that these people are incredibly dangerous, even though it seems like they clearly thought they were criminal masterminds. And what I am also impressed with is that police are able to track prepaid phones, because I thought that was the whole reason that criminals bought prepaid phones, because they couldn't be tracked or traced or whatever. However, it seems like police easily were able to do that. And thankfully, Grandma Tiffany thought that she wasn't going to be able to be tracked like that either, because now here we are knowing that police can, some way, somehow, track these phones. And it seems that it led police directly to where the bodies were, allegedly, because it doesn't state in the affidavit that the bodies were there. And again, we don't 100% know at this point in time whether they are their bodies, even though, again, it seems kind of obvious at this point, allegedly. And it also seems like all of this was done in premeditation, because it looks like they pre-dug holes. It seems like concrete was maybe used and then dirt was put on top, hay, like there was a lot of forethought in this. Now, that is kind of the vast majority of what we learned regarding the case at this moment. However, I want to talk about Ringleader Rickman for a moment, because I've been talking a lot about Ringleader, who, if you didn't know, is Veronica's ex-husband, the father of her children, and he was in rehab when her and Jilian ended up being ambushed and murdered. I keep saying I don't think Ringleader is completely innocent in this, and I feel like the information we learned about him in the affidavit kind of confirms that, in my opinion. Because as you know, I'm not a Ringleader Rickman fan at all, considering he was charged with DV against a pregnant woman. However, it truly does seem like Grandma Tiffany was the ringleader in all of this, and that she was even trying to keep her grandchildren away from their own father. Which, again, with his history as well, I don't even know if he deserves custody of it. That's not my choice to make or whatever, but this grandma, man. The information in the affidavit revealed that Ringleader's mother, Tiffany, would at times refuse to let him have access to his children despite him having legal custody of them. Court documents also state recordings were obtained where Ringleader discussed death threats by his mother and her boyfriend, Tad Cullum. Now, whether those were towards him or towards Veronica, I didn't see it specifically stated, and I'm assuming by the wording it may have been towards him. But it also said that law enforcement had previously responded to a call for service where Tiffany refused to give Ringleader his children. So just from hearing that, it kind of, made me think Ringleader wasn't part of this, and it was all Tiffany's idea. However, as I said, I think Ringleader knows more than we think. Because it would go on to state, and I quote, Ringleader's grandmother, Debbie Knox Davis, reported that in February 2024, the Ringleader told her they didn't have to worry about the custody battle much longer because his mother, Tiffany, had it under control, that Tiffany knew the path the judge walked to work, and that we will take out Veronica at drop-off. End quote. Damn. So that literally right there means that Tiffany also had some plan to take out a judge. The audacity this woman had, the gall. to want to go and take out and murder the judge of the custody case so that she could get custody. However, Ringleader's denying having that conversation with his grandmother, because if what Ringleader's grandmother is saying is true, that means that Ringleader did know that his mother wanted to go kill Veronica, and he didn't do anything to stop it. But let me know what you think about that. But that is all of the new information we learned from the affidavit. Not only does my heart go out to Veronica and Jilian's families, but I know like everyone in the surrounding area is also deeply affected by this. Hugoton residents are extremely heartbroken, it seems, over the news. One resident saying this to a reporter at 2KSN.
I talked to a woman in Hugoton who said she knows Jilian and Veronica in passing, but she said you didn't have to know the women personally to now have a sense of grief.
The community still cares. And it's absolutely devastating. You know, they were both young and vibrant, and they deserved more.
Another very sad thing I seen was that Veronica had a store in Hugoton called Sunflower Nutrition, and before she left to pick up her kids that Easter weekend, she put a sign on the window saying that she was going to be closed for the weekend. And that sign is still in that window because Veronica was just planning to be away from the weekend, spend time with her kids, have a good time, take them to a birthday party. And that changed so quickly. And it really makes you think about life when you think about stuff like this, how 1 second she was just having a normal day. She closed her shop down, put a sign up saying I'll be back Monday, essentially. And then the next thing she knew, an hour or so later, she was being murdered. You know, Veronica and Jilian just thought this was going to be a quick back and forth trip, maybe 2 hours. They were going to spend the rest of the holiday weekend having fun with their families. And instead, they were brutally murdered over a custody dispute. It's ridiculous. It's so sad that there are people that are that evil out there. Then, you know, Grandma Tiffany tried to cover it all up. And honestly, just hearing all of this information, it really does confirm to me that this case reminds me of the Pike County Massacre, as we talked about in the last video. Very similar thing happened in that case where the grandmother tried to control everyone in the family. She wanted the grandkids to like essentially be her own. She treated them as her own kids. She made them call her mom. From what I seen, the children at one point didn't even know that their grandmother wasn't their grandmother and they thought it was their mom. That's how much she was like brainwashing the children and how obsessed she was with making her grandchildren her own children. And it seems the same thing was happening here. Tiffany thought she was badass, just like the grandma in that case, and she wanted to make the kids her kids. She wasn't letting the father see them. She wasn't letting the mother see them. She wanted control. And I understand there's allegations against Veronica and Ringleader. So maybe neither of them were fit. That's not for us to decide. That was up to the courts. And clearly the courts were deciding certain things with the information that they had. But it makes me question, was grandma swaying the courts when she couldn't get her way with swaying the courts anymore? She was going to go literally kill the judge, it seems. So in my opinion, grandma was the one manipulating this whole thing. She was the puppet master, it seems. And when she couldn't get her way in the end, she went to murder. And she actually followed through with it. And I'm surprised she convinced this whole other group of people to do this with her. She convinced multiple other people to do this. So all these people are equally just as evil and as bad. It's not just grandma. We got Tad, we got Cora, we got Cole, we got this other guy that's not even arrested yet, which I'm really curious about that as well. And I'm really curious about the person that owns the property where that hole was dug. Now, hopefully that all that information will eventually come out and I will be talking to you all about it once it does. But for now, that is what we have. I want to know how you're all feeling about this new information. It's a lot to take in. It truly is. And I wasn't expecting it all to come out this fast, but here I am trying to get this out for you all and chat it with you all about it because I read through it all and was just shocked, just so shocked. But I will be down in the comment section below chatting with you all. Let me know how you're feeling about all this new information. And as I said, my heart goes out to both Jilian and Veronica's families. This is worst case scenario, but I am just glad, as sad as that is to say, that 2 bodies were recovered and hopefully the family can now get closure and it's not just up in the air, because I think one of the worst things that can happen when someone goes missing is that they're not found and then there's no closure. But as always, I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I will see you in the next video.